honestly, I enjoyed the season as a whole until that flash forward. The one thing I'll say one good thing about the flash forward, and it made me understand why they use flip phones in the series, because it's been 5 years ago this whole time. I'm like, oh, cool, good to know.
Well, we don't actually know.
Well, I'm gonna pretend that because at least then that makes a little more sense. But other than that, I'm just pretending the series closes with her empty house, where she finds the casing in her house and walks away and goes to get herself healthy.
Versus the rom-com
or whatever. Versus because I don't want to be like soapbox or anything, but one of the things that I've always really liked about the show is that they have this relationship that's unconventional, and it is not assuming that they're just going to sleep together. I like the fact that men and women can be friends, and men and women can work together, and it's not always about like we're going to be together romantically, because that's not how life is. Like, you can be attracted to somebody, but you're not just going to always fall in love or fall into bed with your coworker or your boss or whoever. But on most of these crime shows, like, that's what that dynamic is, because everything is heightened and there's tension, and that tension turns to sexual tension, and then the show becomes about that. And this show was never that until that ending. And I was like, I liked the hope it gave, but it was more than hope. It was very much of like we should be together hope. And I was like, but can we just separate the way the show has always separated? Well, I don't know why you need to tack it on.
To be fair, they did have that moment last season that they...
Yes.
But even still, and I've never been
But it wasn't the ending, and so I felt like, let's see where it goes.
Right, and see, for me, I was never one who was like, oh my god, they need to be together, or oh my god, they don't.
I don't think anybody has strong feelings either way.
That's not
typically.
True.
Really?
I searched on Twitter and Tumblr after I watched the finale, because I wanted to see what was going on, to see if people were freaking out. Either one way or the other. So
this was after the finale, after people had watched it?
Yeah,
because what I wonder is if people thought they wanted it until they were given it. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you're given it, you're given that like happy broadcast network wrap up ending that maybe people didn't necessarily want, but when they're given it, they're like, oh yeah, okay, I'll be happy with that. Versus people that have been watching and saying all the time, why can't you Benson and Stabler the show or whatever, you know?
I have so many things to say. I have so many things to say about that.
But you know what I'm saying. So there are shows that we cover all the time that's what takes over the discussion.
Right. No, and I mean, my thing with that was that I never felt strongly one way or the other. I saw chemistry, but I didn't need that to be part of the experience for me to enjoy the show. Sometimes there are shows where you're like, you didn't end them up together when you've been kind of playing towards that for years. You're dumb, in my opinion. But this is a show where the happy ending feels weird. It's also a show where the last scene they literally shared together, and I'm not talking about the interrogation room, which I thought could have been an interesting way to end their relationship. The last time they were face to face, she had a gun at him.
But that was 5 years ago.
But based on their conversation, it did not seem like they actually kept in touch.
No, but
it's
that
still
was
something.
Still 5 years ago.
I'm sorry. Even if I'm romantically interested in a man, if he aims a gun at me...
Yeah, but she had a gun in his face, and for men, it's different. I know. I'm not justifying it. I'm just saying, like...
To be fair, he was the one who was very much more actively pursuing that in the flash forward than she was. She took her a while.
And
yes.
And what I meant was maybe the gun in his face wasn't so worrisome. He's, I just...
Fine. If I have a gun at my prospective suitor's face, and I have a gun in his face, and then 5 years later I come back and I'm like, hey, what's up? And there's a happily ever after. I'm
really
like,
scared now that this is going to get flagged by like the FBI, but
there's no guns. But the point just is that where they left off, and given the fact that they had no conversations, to then suddenly be like, open your eyes and see what's in front of you, and like, you were my home, which first of all, her poor fucking kid. Like,
well, I mean, she clearly the whole show was about mother issues.
She was so terrible as a mother, but at the same time, it's like, oh, good, nothing about your child ever made you feel like home, but being in a car.
No, but she gave him away, so he's okay. No, I mean, what I mean is, like, it's not like Callie's mom, who is a terrible mother,
yes.
but kept her around. Like, this kid has
anatomy first.
Yes. I meant like, because, you know, he has his dad and his dad's wife, and he's living, hopefully, a nice existence. His
girlfriend and whatever.
Right, and so... No, I just meant, like, some people are not cut out to be parents, and clearly she's had issues her whole... And,
right.
Yeah.
And just... Based on them not seemingly speaking in 5 years, based on the way they ended it, based on the fact that last she knew he was engaged and about to have a kid, the conversation just felt like, what's going on? Like, we actually don't know what happened with him and Caroline. Like, we don't know if they broke up. Right, but we don't know if they got married and divorced. We don't know if they never got married. Like, I'm actually curious about that because it's like, he proposed to her because he knocked her up. It's not like it was
right.
Like, it's not like it was a first comes love and marriage then comes baby, but it was still something where I was very much just going, what?
Sure.
Just what?
Yeah.
Okay.
This
totally was not the same thing with any of the show.
Exactly. And that was why, I mean...
And now I get the feeling our viewers are scared of us.
Well, no, I mean, but regardless of personal opinions, like, what you said is exactly it. It didn't fit the tone of the show. And so it felt like all of a sudden they tacked on the scene from something else onto the show that if you'd watched for 4 years, you obviously liked what they were doing for 4 years. And now to end it on a note that's so different... I mean, a lot, you know, people were talking about how, like, well, at least they're both healthy and happy and whatever in a way that, you know, they never really seemed that way when they were riding on the car. And I'm like, well, are they? Like, who knows?
We don't know. No lives.
Yeah, we don't know. And no offense, but maybe that's not what I wanted for them since it didn't feel earned. Like, it didn't feel realistic for those characters. There are people who just go through life and they're not healthy and they're not happy.
Yeah.
And it's not good, but that's a slice of storytelling that is still worth exploring, and they did for 4 years until that last 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So for me, the show ends before that, and I just pretend it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was The Killing, you guys.
I don't think we'll ever be speaking about it again.
We'll see. I'm Danielle at Danielle TBD.
I'm Marisa Rothman.